You've already surrendered everything into God's hands, but sometimes it seems like nothing is happening. What if the greatest proof that God is at work isn't a change around you, but something silently happening within you? Today, you'll discover the signs that many people ignore and that may reveal that God has already begun to transform your life. God almost never acts in the way we imagine. While many expect immediate changes, they end up giving up because they don't recognize the first signs of divine action. Stay until the end, because each of these signs may reveal that God is already working in your life, even silently. Have you ever wondered why, even after surrendering everything to God in prayer, it seems like nothing has changed? Perhaps you expected an immediate answer, an open door, or a visible miracle, but found only silence. What if this silence isn't a sign of absence, but the way God begins to transform you? Have you ever experienced this? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover may surprise you. The Bible shows that God often works first in the heart, strengthening faith, renewing hope, and changing our emotions before changing circumstances. It is precisely there that many people give up without realizing that the answer has already begun. And perhaps that's exactly why this message has reached you today. If, while listening to these words, any situation from your life came to mind, share it in the comments. Your experience may be the answer or encouragement that someone else needed to find at this moment. And if this content is strengthening your faith and bringing a new perspective on how God works in silence, please like and subscribe to the channel. Your participation helps this message reach more people who also need hope, direction, and peace. Now, because the next signs reveal something that can completely change the way you interpret God's silence. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because the first sign that God has already received your offering almost never appears in the circumstances. It begins within you. Almost imperceptibly, something changes in your mindset, in the way you face challenges, and even in the decisions that were previously guided by fear. The problems continue to exist. The answers may not have arrived yet, but there is a peace that simply doesn't make sense to those who only look at the outside. It's as if, in the midst of the storm, your heart stops fighting against everything it cannot control. This is one of the greatest hidden truths of the journey of faith. God doesn't transform the scenario first. He transforms the person who is living that scenario. The Bible shows us that this peace doesn't depend on the absence of difficulties, but on God's presence sustaining those who have chosen to trust in Him. It's a peace that doesn't eliminate all questions, but prevents them from destroying hope. You begin to realize that you no longer react the same way to bad news, disappointments, or delays. There's a silent impact happening within your soul. While everything seems the same to others, God is strengthening you behind the scenes, preparing your heart for what is yet to come. And this inner transformation is much deeper than any external change, because it alters how you see your own life. Perhaps that's exactly what's happening to you right now, but because it's so subtle, you haven't recognized it yet. Comment below, "The peace of God is transforming me." Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because the second sign is often one of the hardest to accept. After surrendering everything to God, some doors begin to close, and our first reaction is almost always to think that something went wrong. But does every closed door really mean defeat? What if, in fact, it's an answer you haven't yet understood? There's a hidden truth in this process that few people realize. God doesn't always open paths immediately. Often, He first prevents you from continuing to walk in the wrong direction. Think about how many decisions we make driven by anxiety, fear of missing opportunities, or the rush to see everything resolved. Not every opportunity represents God's purpose for your life. Some seem perfect at first, but could lead to wounds, frustrations, and consequences you can't yet see. It's precisely behind the scenes that God begins to act, protecting you from situations that make sense to you today, but that tomorrow could distance you from what He has prepared. The Bible shows many times that God protects before He prospers. Before delivering a promise, He molds character. Before opening a new door, He closes those that would lead you away from your purpose. And although this may cause pain for a time, this transformation prevents much greater losses in the future. Sometimes what you called rejection was deliverance. What seemed like a delay was preparation. And what you interpreted as silence was God working on details you couldn't yet perceive. Perhaps there's a door that recently closed and still hurts your heart. But what if that loss wasn't the end of your journey, but rather how God decided to redirect your steps towards something much better? This change in mindset completely transforms how we see difficulties, because we understand that not every loss represents God's absence. Some are part of the very answer we've been asking for in prayer. Write it in the comments. God knows the way. There's also a sign that almost goes unnoticed, precisely because it happens silently and gradually. One day you realize that the anxiety that once dominated all your thoughts no longer has the same power. The fear that paralyzed your decisions begins to lose strength. The guilt that insisted on reminding you of your mistakes ceases to control how you see yourself. This doesn't mean that these emotions disappear overnight, but that they cease to occupy the commanding position within your heart. This is one of the most profound, behind-the-scenes aspects of the transformation that God brings about. Many people imagine that the divine response always arrives as an extraordinary event, but often it begins as a change in mindset. You continue to face challenges, but you no longer react in the same way. Worries still exist, but they no longer completely steal your peace. Difficult memories remain part of your story, but they cease to define your identity. It is at this moment that we perceive a hidden truth. God is not just solving external problems, He is healing the roots that have fueled these emotions for so long. The Bible illustrates this process in various stories. God rarely transforms someone instantly from the inside. He guides a journey of growth, strengthening confidence step by step. Each small victory over fear, each wiser decision, and each night you manage to rest a little more than before are subtle revelations that something new is happening. Soul healing typically doesn't happen in a single instant, but in many quiet moments that, together, produce a profound and lasting impact. Perhaps you still feel anxious at times, or still face difficult days. This doesn't mean God has stopped working. On the contrary, you may be right in the middle of this transformation process, learning to trust Him more than your own emotions. And when this change begins within you, other areas of your life also begin to reflect this new reality in ways that at first seem almost imperceptible. Comment below, God is transforming me little by little. Over time, this transformation begins to reach another area of your life, the way you see people and situations. What once caused resentment begins to generate understanding. The desire to control everything gives way to trust in God. This change doesn't happen because people have changed, but because God is renewing your heart. Write this down. God is changing my heart. Without you realizing it, God also begins to remove from your life what was hindering your growth. Sometimes these are habits, environments, or even people who seemed indispensable. Although this causes pain, not every loss is a punishment. Many are a deliverance. God clears the path before revealing the complete purpose. Comment below, I trust in God's process. Another sign that often challenges our faith is realizing that the process seems slower than we expected. While we want quick answers, God works in depth. The waiting time strengthens trust, develops maturity, and prepares the heart to sustain what is to come. Silence never means that God has stopped. Often, it is precisely in silence that he accomplishes his greatest work. Write this down. God's timing is perfect. Then, something starts to happen that completely changes your perspective. You begin to see small answers that you previously ignored, a conversation at the right moment, a verse that seems to speak directly to your heart, an unexpected opportunity, or even a deliverance that only made sense later. God rarely wastes details. It is in them that we realize he was present throughout the entire journey. Comment below. God has always been with me. There's a detail many ignore. When God has already received your offering, the greatest temptation is to believe that nothing is happening. It is precisely at this moment that many people give up on the journey because they expected grand signs and did not perceive God's small movements. But those who learn to trust understand that the answer doesn't always come to their eyes first. It begins in the heart. When your faith remains firm, even without explanations, this is also a sign that God is working silently, strengthening you to live what is yet to be revealed. Write this down. I choose to trust. Perhaps God has already answered your prayers, just in a different way than you imagined. The peace that arrived without explanation, the doors that closed, the fear that lost its power, the change in your heart, the hidden deliverances, the patience developed, and the small signs of everyday life show that God is already at work. Before transforming circumstances, he transforms who you are. When the heart changes, the way you see life also changes. And now, I leave you with a question to reflect on. If God is already working silently, have you been able to recognize the signs of his presence in your own life? If this message has strengthened your faith, continue walking with us. Here you will find other content that will help you understand how God works, even in moments of silence. Remain steadfast in the process because he who began the good work in your life is faithful to complete it. See you in the next video.